Hi guys, welcome to the Dark Tales 3 True Disturbing Hostel Scary Stories. A hostel is a type of affordable, short-term accommodation where guests share facilities. For a period, I was chatting with a French girl whom I met on a dating app after my breakup. We exchanged texts, and soon we started calling and video chatting almost every night. We had a strong connection, but she lived with strict parents and couldn't host me. When I suggested sharing a hotel room, she declined, fearing her parents' reaction. As I was only 23 and not financially well off, I booked a stay at a hostel near her in Paris. In preparation for the 7-hour flight, during which I knew I wouldn't be able to sleep, I downloaded some movies to watch. As expected, I couldn't sleep on the flight, and after arriving at the hostel via Uber, I had been awake for nearly 24 hours and felt exhausted. The 6-hour time difference meant it was around 3 in the morning, which allowed me to crash in the hostel bed without much jet lag. Upon reaching the hostel, I noticed it wasn't the best place. The lobby had a peculiar odor, and the front desk worker lacked enthusiasm. But considering it was 3 a.m., I understood. I entered the room to find 6 beds, with 5 of them unoccupied and one guy sitting on one. He seemed focused on his laptop and barely acknowledged my presence when I greeted him. I asked if I could turn off the lights, and although he didn't respond verbally, he nodded, so I switched off the lights and tried to sleep. Due to my sleep deprivation, I fell asleep quickly but woke up after a couple of hours. The room was almost pitch black, and I couldn't see anyone else. Confused about what woke me up, I checked my phone and saw it was 5 in the morning. Assuming the guy from earlier had left, I tried to go back to sleep. Suddenly, the bed shook, and I heard a creepy breathing sound as I saw a head peering over the top bunk, upside down, looking at me. It was a horrifying sight that frightened me, and I screamed in terror. The guy laughed strangely, and I turned on the light, keeping an eye on him while checking my belongings. To my horror, I noticed him taking a picture of me with his phone. I immediately decided to move to a different room and went to the front desk to request a private room. Despite my explanation, they refused to reduce the rate. I didn't involve the police as I wasn't sure if any laws were broken, but I left a negative review for the hostel. The rest of my trip with the girl went well, but I couldn't shake the fear of encountering that creepy guy at the hostel. I didn't appreciate having my picture on his phone, and while I'm not a confrontational person, I wish I had taken more assertive action in that situation. Hi guys, we are about to move to another story, so don't forget to subscribe in case I'm dropping another scary story. The school trip should have been nothing more than an innocent educational journey, an accidental mishap, and a minor inconvenience that could have been easily resolved with a little more planning and a restless night. However, it turned into a nightmarish experience due to the budget hostel we were forced to stay in. Budget hostels, catering to those unable to afford proper accommodations, often become places of unease and danger, making them unwelcome destinations for most travelers. Back in 2019, my class of 15 students embarked on an expeditionary trip to Malaysia to learn about its culture for a minor geography exam. The journey began with excitement as we looked forward to exploring a new land and escaping the routine of school life. Unfortunately, things took a turn for the worse when our coach hit something, causing a tire to deflate. Stranded in a small town miles away from the city, we had no choice but to seek shelter in a rundown hostel the coach driver recommended. The hostel appeared desolate and unstable, adding to our collective sense of anxiety and discomfort. With only a few hours before our planned departure, we settled in for the night. However, the uneasy atmosphere was exacerbated by strange noises coming from outside and below the bunk beds. Fear escalated when I sensed someone standing beside my bunk, staring at me with haunting eyes. My screams alerted everyone in the room, and the intruder fled, leaving us shaken and terrified. Leaving the next morning, we felt relieved to escape the hostel, but the incident left us on edge throughout the rest of the trip. We couldn't help but worry about what could have happened that night. After returning home, the hostel owners informed us that the mysterious man was not a guest and that we had encountered a potential danger. The experience left a lasting impact, reminding us to be cautious and vigilant in unfamiliar places, and we were grateful to have made it through the ordeal unscathed. So guys, let's move on to the last story. On that fateful day, circumstances forced me to flee from home due to my psychopathic and shady family. It might be hard to believe, but I come from a long line of criminals, and my parents were deeply involved in illegal activities, particularly my father with his drug trafficking business. Learning the shocking truth about my family's criminal legacy 2 years prior had left me in denial. My father wanted me to follow in his footsteps, but I refused, which led to tensions between us. Eventually, my father began pressuring me relentlessly to join the criminal enterprise, even resorting to threats. Frustrated and exhausted, I made the difficult decision to escape. I stole some money from my father's stash, packed my belongings, and left home behind. After leaving, I sought refuge in a rundown hostel on the outskirts of Virginia, using a fake name to hide my identity. I occupied a room alone, trying to lay low and avoid detection. Unexpectedly, a girl arrived at my room, mistaking it for hers. I acknowledged her confusion and she settled in next door. As the night wore on, strange noises emanated from the neighboring room. Assuming there was a fight, I hesitated but eventually decided to investigate. To my horror, I discovered two men handling the unconscious or possibly lifeless body of the girl. They dragged her down to the basement, where I secretly trailed them. Inside, I witnessed a horrifying scene, realizing that the hostel was involved in illegal experiments involving human organs and bodies. The next day, I checked the registry to confirm if anyone else had checked in, but there was no record after my entry. I struggled to determine if my experiences were real or just a dream. Driven by curiosity and fear, I decided to return to the mysterious room that night. To my shock, I overheard my own mother's voice discussing the deceased girl's organs and inquiring about my whereabouts. My mother, much to my dismay, seemed deeply involved in the criminal activities I had sought to escape. Since then, I've been on the run, constantly fearing that they might track me down. Despite my efforts to evade them, I've stumbled upon more evidence of their heinous crimes, adding to the weight of the secrets I carry.